Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 9 Part 27 based on novel. So let's start. Lin Dong carried the life-death coffin cover on his shoulder. His expression was calm as he looked at Commander Shia, whose body was giving off a monstrous bloody aura. He could detect that the latter's aura had suddenly become a lot more brutal and violent. It was likely that devouring his companions' corpses had strengthened him. What a strange clan, Lin Dong softly muttered to himself. This was the first time he had seen a technique to strengthen oneself by devouring the corpses of one's companions. Brat, this is called falling into a trap you have dug for yourself. Commander Shia's expression was ferocious, and it seemed as if blood was on the verge of dripping from his eyes. That murderous intent seemed to be almost about to take an actual form. Hand over that little life of yours now. Monstrous blood light surged after Commander Shia's cry sounded. His body directly turned into a flash of demon-like bloodlight that rushed straight at Lin Dong at an extremely shocking speed. Commander Shia's speed had soared greatly after devouring the corpses of his companion. Swoosh! At this moment, a bloody trident streaked through the sky, leaving a stream of blood red that was 1,000 feet long, as it blasted towards Lin Dong's head. The blood-red stream rapidly magnified in Lin Dong's eyes. He laughed coldly as he grabbed the life-death coffin cover with both hands, and the Yuan power within his body began to surge like floodwaters. Black light emerged from the life-death coffin cover. After which, it directly smashed violently onto that blood-red stream. Bang! Wild and violent energies spread wildly upon collision. The resulting force caused a huge 1,000-feet wave to spread from the point of collision in a circular fashion, while a loud noise rumbled into the distance. Lin Dong stood on the surface of the sea, as black light surged on the life-death coffin cover in his hands, directly blocking that tremendous force. With his current strength, he was able to match an advanced profound life stage expert. Now that he had a powerful treasure like the life-death coffin cover in his hands, it would likely be difficult for ordinary advanced profound life stage experts to contend against him. Despite devouring the corpses of your companions, your strength is still this insignificant. Lin Dong smiled at Commander Shia, as a chilling light flashed past his pitch-black eyes. His foot pushed off the surface of the sea, and his body rose upwards. The life-death coffin cover in his hands contained a rippling deathly glow as it swept towards Commander Shia. Commander Shia's eyes became unusually vicious as he watched Lin Dong pouncing at him while wielding the life-death coffin cover. Wild and violent Yuan power unfurled. The trident in his hands also contained great power as it ferociously attacked. Bang bang bang. The coffin cover and the trident collided in the mid-air at lightning speed, while wave after wave of astonishing force continued to sweep outwards. The speed of these two figures had been pushed to the limit, and all the Yuan power within their bodies was being utilized. As both parties clashed directly, Commander Shia's expression appeared a little ugly as he discovered that he was slowly falling into a disadvantageous. Lin Dong's battle power seemed to have exceeded his own with the aid of the life-death coffin cover. Boom! Another fierce clash occurred. Lin Dong's body jerked, while Commander Shia's body was forced to take a couple of steps back. The strand of black energy that came invading from the life-death coffin cover also caused him to panic and look relatively miserable. Brat, are you going to rely on the life-death coffin cover to act mighty? Commander Shia's expression was a little green. The life-death coffin cover in Lin Dong's hands had made him somewhat helpless, as the death chi from the coffin cover frightened him greatly. Lin Dong smiled upon hearing this. He mocked, could it be that you are going to cry for a fair fight? Since when did your blood demon shark clan become so righteous? Weren't you thinking of gathering a group of people to surround and attack me? Brat, do you really think that this commander cannot finish you off? Commander Shia's face turned red due to Lin Dong's provocations, and he immediately responded with a roar. Don't think that you are the only one with a pure Yuan treasure. Bloodlight flowed within Commander Shia's eyes. He seemed to hesitate for a moment, before firmly clenching his teeth. With a clench of his hand, a scarlet-red jade box appeared. With a slap of his palm, the cover of the box was flipped open. Soon after, a foot-long large blood-red item rose from within. A shockingly fiendish aura quietly spread when this object appeared. This is... Lin Dong's eyes slightly focused as he looked at the blood-red object. It seemed to be a sharp tooth. There were blood-red light runes on it, and an indescribably dark aura covered over its surface. This is my Blood Demon Shark clan's Demon Shark Tooth. Brat, you are the one who has forced my hand. Commander Shia gave Lin Dong a ferocious smile. Immediately, his eyes became dark and cold as he looked at the other 3 Blood Demon Shark clan squadron commanders and cried out, "Offer the blood sacrifice to the Demon Tooth." The expressions of the 3 squadron commanders immediately changed slightly. However, they still clenched their teeth and bit the tips of their tongue. 3 clusters of essence blood that gave off rich energy fluctuations shot out. Finally, they landed on the blood-red demon tooth. Buzz buzz. The blood-red demon tooth immediately jerked after the blood touched it, as a blood-colored light arc spread from its pointed edge. That sharpness caused even space itself to show signs of being shattered. On the other hand, the expressions of the 3 squadron commanders, who had offered the blood sacrifice, turned ghastly white, while their auras were also unusually weary. It seemed that one must pay quite a hefty price in order to activate the so-called Demon Shark Tooth. This fellow actually also possesses a pure yuan treasure. Lin Dong's eyes shivered a little when that Demon Shark Tooth appeared. He did not expect that this Commander Shia actually possessed such a trump card. It is merely a low-grade pure yuan treasure. Nevertheless, you should be careful. Yang also cautioned at this moment. Lin Dong nodded. This Commander Shia did possess the strength of an advanced profound life stage expert. If he had the aid of a pure yuan treasure, it would indeed be quite troublesome to deal with him. One must not underestimate him. Originally, I did not wish to activate this treasure. Unfortunately, your arrogance is really extremely hateful. It will not be shameful if you die by it. Commander Shia's eyes were sinister. Blood light erupted from within his body and frantically poured into the Demon Shark Tooth. Following the influx of his yuan power, the Demon Shark Tooth rapidly swelled. In a short span of time, it had turned into an enormous sharp tooth. It looked like a blood-colored spear from afar, and gave off a formidable and fiendish aura. Die? The giant blood-colored tooth floated in the sky. Immediately, a sound wave that was filled with murderous intent spread outwards. In the next moment, the giant tooth turned into a flash of bloody light that rushed forward. Its speed was so quick that it could not be described, and it seemed as though it had penetrated through space itself. A monstrous bloody aura surged as killing intent spread from it. Lin Dong watched as the bloody glow rapidly magnified in his eyes. The pores all over his body began to shrink tightly. Soon after, his hand slowly gripped the life-death coffin cover tightly, as the corners of his mouth lifted to form a wild expression. Life-death coffin cover. Although you do not belong to me, you must still display your power. Majestic yuan power swept out from Lin Dong without restraint at this moment. After which, it poured into the life-death coffin cover in his hands. Roar! As majestic yuan power was poured in, the black patterns on the life-death coffin cover turned increasingly bright. Wave after wave of death undulations rippled from it. Lin Dong inhaled a deep breath, as both of his hands tightly gripped the coffin cover. He took a step forward, lifting the coffin cover high above his head like a blade. After which, he suddenly slashed down in a furious manner. Bang! The sky seemed to dim the moment the coffin cover was swung downwards, as monstrous black chi swept out in an extremely wild and violent fashion. A pillar of black light seemed to have emerged from hell as it streaked through the air, and ruthlessly hacked at the incoming bloody light. Clang! At the moment of impact, heaven and earth turned silent, while the sea instantly became wild and violent. Giant waves that seemingly blotted the sky charged into the clouds at this moment. After which, they suddenly came falling down like a bomb. Everything within a 300,000 feet radius was enveloped within a frightening rainstorm. Black light and blood light each occupied half of the raining sky. Wave after wave of terrifying fluctuations spread wildly and raged throughout the sky. The clash of these two frightening energies did not last for long. Rays of black light suddenly gathered within the black light, before abruptly shooting from it. Sizzle sizzle. The bloody light in the sky collapsed almost instantly wherever the black light rays passed. It was boom boom boom. The loud sound of the blood light collapsing echoed across the sky, as it scattered at a shocking speed. After which, Commander Shia's body was also revealed. His face was currently filled with shock and fear. Clearly, he was somewhat unable to imagine that he would actually be so swiftly defeated after using the Pu Yuan treasure. He had underestimated Lin Dong's strength, and had also similarly underestimated the might of the life-death coffin cover. Although they were both Pu Yuan treasures, it was obvious that the might of the life-death coffin cover far surpassed that demon shark tooth of his. Swoosh! Commander Shia watched this scene in shock. In the next moment, his body suddenly pulled back rapidly. He was aware that he had already fallen into a complete disadvantage. If he did not flee, it was likely that he would be completely retained by Lin Dong in this place. After witnessing the ruthlessness of Lin Dong, he did not feel that the latter would show mercy and let him off. It is perhaps a little too late to think of leaving now. However, a cold and indifferent expression was revealed on Lin Dong's face the moment Commander Shia's body pulled back. He had always paid careful attention to completely eliminate all of his enemies. The things that Lin Dong had done would definitely anger the Blood Demon Shark clan. If he allowed this person to escape, it was likely that he would be continuously chased by the Blood Demon Shark clan. Such trouble would be even more terrifying than offending the nefarious Bone Old Man. Hence, Commander Shia must not be allowed to escape in order to save Lin Dong such trouble. Bang! The life-death coffin cover in Lin Dong's hand once again viciously swung out. Several black light threads in the sky immediately twisted and merged, turning into a thumb-sized thick black light beam that rushed towards Commander Shia with lightning speed. Space began to crack, and a black scar was formed wherever the light beam passed, while a thick aura of death was emitted. Such an aura was usually possessed by someone who had stepped into the profound death stage. However, Lin Dong had managed to unleash it with the power of the life-death coffin cover. Its destructive power was quite terrifying. Brat. We can discuss things nicely. Commander Shia's expression changed drastically after seeing the black light beam that was rushing towards him. There was now an additional trace of panic in his eyes as he hurriedly cried out. Lin Dong completely ignored Commander Shia's cry. The light beam pierced through the void, and finally struck Commander Shia under the latter's horrified gaze. Majestic Yuan power frantically spread from Commander Shia's body. Even his skin had turned into blood-colored scales. Clearly, he had fortified his defenses as much as possible. Swoosh! However, that black light beam completely ignored his defenses. It continued to carry a thick deathly ripple as it mercilessly struck Commander Shia's body. In the end, it emitted a plop sound as it penetrated his body. Commander Shia's body suddenly froze at this moment. He slowly lowered his head, his expression filled with horror, as he looked at the black hole that appeared on his chest. The fresh blood there had become grayish-black. He could sense that a wave of death had invaded his body, and was severing the life force within his body at a shocking speed. Why has this? Commander Shia's hand rubbed the black blood on his chest, as his vision started to darken. He had never imagined that he would actually be killed at the hands of an initial profound life stage expert. This is all forced by you. Lin Dong softly muttered as he watched Commander Shia, whose body was swiftly covered by a grayish-black aura. Brat, my Blood Demon Shark clan will not let you off. Commander Shia's expression was ferocious, while rich viciousness filled his eyes. However, he did not manage to complete his words. The remaining life force within his eyes completely solidified. After which, his body turned rigid, and his aura faded away. The life force of this advanced profound life stage expert had clearly been severed at this moment. Lin Dong's eyes were indifferent as he looked at the corpse as it fell from the sky. He held the life-death coffin cover in his hand, and could not help but praised it quietly. The destructive power of this life-death coffin cover was too great. From a certain point of view, it was even stronger than the burning sky cauldron before the burning sky gate was refined. If the death chi within it invaded one's body, even an advanced profound life stage expert would end up completely dead. The life chi that a profound life stage expert was so proud of had lost all of its recovery properties in the face of the death chi's erosion. Lin Dong looked at the corpse that had fell into the sea in an unsympathetic manner. After which, he turned his head and looked at the 3 still living Blood Demon Shark clan squadron leaders hovering in the air. He spoke in an indifferent voice, "You should also accompany him. Run." The complexions of the 3 squadron leaders were ghastly pale. Their strength had already declined greatly after offering a blood sacrifice to the demon shark tooth earlier. Hence, they were clearly aware that they were no match for Lin Dong. Immediately, their bodies rushed backwards and miserably fled in 3 different directions. Lin Dong calmly looked at the 3 individuals who had split up. With a wave of the life-death coffin cover, 3 tiny black light threads rushed out and instantly caught up with the 3 individuals. After which, the black light threads shot into their bodies, as they swiftly turned grayish-black. Their life force was severed as they fell headfirst towards the sea. They have all been eliminated. Lin Dong gazed at the now empty sky. After which, he indifferently glanced at the floating corpses on the sea and sighed in relief. He had finally resolved this trouble. "Brother Lin Dong, you are really impressive." The burning sky cauldron in his sleeve shook a little. Mu Lingshan turned into a ray of light and slipped out from it. She looked at the scene on the surface of the sea with her large eyes as she smiled and said, "It is all thanks to your life-death coffin cover." Lin Dong chuckled as he patted the life-death coffin cover. After which, he threw it towards Mu Lingshan. Even he could not help but feel some desire towards such a treasure. However, he would not turn on her and snatch the treasure. One reason was that he felt a disdain towards such an action. Another reason was that he could sense that this life-death coffin cover had many seals on it. These seals should have been placed by some of the experts from the immortal sage whale clan. It was likely that he would immediately be faced with great trouble if he was to disturb them. This life-death coffin cover is a set with the life-death coffin. Therefore, those in the clan view it with great importance. Otherwise, it would not matter if I gift it to Brother Lin Dong. Mu Lingshan received the life-death coffin cover and laughingly said. The words that she had spoken were completely thoughtless. If the elders within the clan were to learn about this, it was likely that they would be angered to the point of blowing at their beards. Lin Dong was quietly speechless upon hearing this. Just the coffin cover itself was already so powerful. He wondered just how terrifying that life-death coffin would be if they were used together. A treasure of that level should likely have exceeded the realms of a pure yuan treasure. I have also gained something this time around. Lin Dong smiled. After which, his eyes looked towards the air, where a foot-long blood-red tooth was floating. Wave after wave of dark aura was emitted from it. It was that demon shark tooth that Commander Shia had used earlier. Lin Dong beckoned with his hand and that demon shark tooth flew over. After which, it landed in his hand. The evil aura from it caused Lin Dong to raise his brows. Brother Lin Dong, that is a pure yuan treasure of the blood demon shark clan. Its strength is still alright, but it cannot be compared with the life-death coffin cover. Mu Lingshan said. Lin Dong was speechless. Would the blood demon shark clan not be overly terrifying if any random pure yuan treasure that a commander took out could be compared with the life-death coffin cover? It is rumored that this demon shark tooth must devour one's essence blood each time it is activated. Brother Lin Dong should be careful if you wish to use it. Lin Dong nodded slightly. He had seen the so-called blood sacrifice from earlier. It seemed that the price of using this thing was quite great. One must hurt oneself before hurting others. He should pay more attention before using it in the future. Lin Dong flipped his hand, and kept the demon shark tooth. After which, his eyes scanned the area as he said, we should leave this place. Without further ado, Lin Dong turned into a flash green light that rushed forward, while Mu Lingshan also quickly followed behind. Following their departure, this sea region once again became quiet. The only proof that a shocking battle had erupted in this place were the dozen or so icy-cold corpses on the surface of the sea. The Sky Merchant region was a relatively unusual place within the chaotic Demon Sea. This was not merely because it was connected to several sea regions, but also due to the frightening number of wonderful treasures that had gathered within it. This caused Sky Merchant region's reputation within the chaotic Demon Sea to surpass the Heaven Wind Sea region. Sky Merchant region was formed from over 1,000 islands, and could practically be called a continent on the sea. Of course, the terrain was not the only complicated part of the place. The interactions between the various factions within it could only be described as chaotic. Of course, the most powerful faction within Sky Merchant region was naturally the Sky Merchant Court. The strength and foundation that this faction possessed was only greater than the two great caves in the Heaven Wind Sea region. Moreover, the Sky Merchant Court was quite famous even within the entire chaotic Demon Sea. Under the leadership of the Sky Merchant Court, Sky Merchant region had become much better compared to its chaotic past self. Currently, this region had become a holy land in the hearts of countless treasure seekers. It was said that as long as one possessed sufficient Xian Yuan pills, one would be able to purchase anything in this place. These words might be somewhat exaggerated, but from them, one could still tell just what kind of level the reputation of Sky Merchant region had reached. The Lin Dong duo did not linger after finishing off those troublesome blood demon sharks who had followed them, and headed straight for Sky Merchant region. This was because the annual Sky Merchant auction was about to arrive, and Lin Dong wished to obtain quite a number of things from it. Naturally, he did not wish to miss such a grand event. Due to there being no obstructions during the subsequent part of their journey, they were able to travel smoothly. Within a mere 5 days, land began to appear in the horizon of the seemingly endless sea, while the sky also became extremely noisy at that moment, as countless rays of light flashed past. It looked as though they were interweaving with each other in the sky, forming a large net of light. How lively! Mu Lingshan's large clear eyes watched the extremely lively Sky Merchant region. Her small face was filled with excitement and feelings of novelty. Lin Dong nodded. Some surprise was present in his eyes. He had only visited Mysterious Spirit Island and Martial Gathering Island ever since he had arrived at this chaotic Demon Sea. Although both islands were quite large, they were nothing when compared with this Sky Merchant region. We will head directly to Sky Merchant City. It is the main city of Sky Merchant region. Lin Dong chuckled and said. Is brother Lin Dong also here for the Sky Merchant auction? Mu Lingshan smiled as she asked. It seemed that this Sky Merchant auction was indeed quite well known, and even she had heard about it. Lin Dong nodded and smacked his lips. He had begun to consider the problem of his finances after having reached Sky Merchant region. After all, if any item in the auction caught his eye, he would need to use Xian Yuan pills to compete for them. The main problem was he was currently not very rich. This place was not the ancient battlefield from back then, and situations where force was used to snatch away something would not occur. In Sky Merchant region, whoever dared to do such a thing in an auction organized by the Sky Merchant Court, unless his strength had reached the samsara stage, one could only say that he was a death-seeking fool. Hence, Lin Dong could only obediently use Xian Yuan pills to try and compete for something that had caught his eye. Looks like I can only auction off some of the core spiritual birth serum in my hands. Lin Dong fondled his chin. Although he possessed many treasures with him, he did not dare reveal most of them. After some thought, it seemed that the only thing that he could take out, and was also somewhat valuable, was the core spiritual birth serum that he had obtained on Mysterious Spirit Island. This item was not only extremely useful when attempting to break through the Nirvana stage, but was also a great nourishment towards those experts who had stepped into the profound life stage. If he was to auction it, it was likely that even those advanced and perfect profound life stage experts would be interested. If it was not because he was tight in terms of finances, Lin Dong would not auction it. Let's go. Lin Dong felt a heartache as he spoke to Mu Lingshan behind him. His body moved and turned into a flash of green light that hurried towards Sky Merchant City. Mu Lingshan followed behind him, while looking all around her. Sky Merchant region was very vast. Even with Lin Dong's speed, he ended up spending half a day in order to reach its center, where a giant city that almost occupied an entire island appeared within his sight. A faint yellow light barrier covered the city. Lin Dong could detect a terrifying fluctuation from the light barrier. This fluctuation was not any weaker than the great sect protecting formation of the Dao sect. This caused him to involuntarily let out some praise. It seemed that this sky merchant court was indeed powerful. The light barrier in the sky did not appear to prevent anyone from entering. Hence, Lin Dong followed some people and directly passed through it. After which, his gaze swept around and locked onto at the spot in the middle of the city. A 10,000 feet large black building quietly stood at that spot. A vast and mighty aura was emitted from it, causing one to feel somewhat intimidated. Which faction other than the overlord of Sky Merchant City, the Sky Merchant Court, would have the qualifications to build such a large and superior building in this place? They are indeed worthy of being the overlord of the Sky Merchant region. Lin Dong's eyes swept over the 10,000 feet large building that rose straight into the clouds, as a solemn expression flashed across his eyes. He could vaguely sense some extremely obscure and powerful auras from it. These auras appeared like the frightening lightning that hidden within the clouds. Anyone who attempted to act against the Sky Merchant Court would attract thunderbolt-like killing intent. I wonder if this Sky Merchant Court has any Samsara stage super experts. Lin Dong fondled his chin. The strength of the Samsara stage was already a top-notch in the world. If one wished to become a first-tier faction in this world, one must definitely have a Samsara stage expert. The Yuan Gate's 3 great sect masters had such strength, while the Dao sect had 2 individuals with such a strength. This was already not bad in this chaotic demon sea. After all, these super sects did possess an extremely frightening foundation regardless of how one put it. The court chief of the Sky Merchant Court is a Samsara stage expert. He once came to our clan while heading all over the place in search of treasure. However, he was eventually driven away by First Grandpa. Mu Lingshan tilted her head and thought for a moment before remarking. Lin Dong's mouth parted. It seemed that this immortal sage whale clan was indeed quite powerful. They were able to drive away a Samsara stage expert as they pleased. Let's go. We will make a trip to the Sky Merchant Court. Lin Dong rushed forward. Over 10 minutes later, he landed on an enormous square a short distance from the towering building. At this moment, the square itself was extremely lively. A great amount of human traffic was gathered in this place and continuously flowed towards the Sky Merchant Court shops in front. Lin Dong got his bearings before heading towards the Sky Merchant Court. At this moment, he discovered rushing wind sounds appearing on the square. A small commotion accompanied the sounds. Are those members of the demonic wind cave? Could their leader be the most outstanding person amongst the younger generation of the demonic wind cave? Little underworld King Xie Yang? His aura is quite strong. Looks like his reputation is not false. He is indeed worthy of being one of the strongest member of the younger generation in the Heaven Wind Sea region. Lin Dong's heart trembled slightly after hearing the various conversations being transmitted into his ear, as he lifted his head. At this moment, there were over a dozen figures landing from the sky. A handsome young man in black robes led them. There was a black skeleton tattoo on man's brow, and it seemed to have been purposefully placed there. Each step of that young man vaguely contained a dark and evil aura, causing the temperature around him to fall substantially. Around a dozen figures clustered together behind the man. 2 elderly figures amongst them had indifferent expressions. As they lifted their heads, those turbid eyes of theirs had a deterring glitter in them. They were clearly exceptionally powerful. This lineup was indeed quite powerful. No wonder it was able to attract such a commotion. Demonic Wind Cave. Little Underworld King Xie Yang, Lin Dong watched this group and muttered. Back when he was at Martial Gathering Island, he was already aware that Shintu Ju was only ranked 3rd amongst the younger generation in the Heaven Wind Sea region. There were 2 individuals above him. One was the Universe Han Ju Gan from the Universe Cave, while the other was this little underworld king before him, Xie Yang. Looks like Sky Merchant Auction has attracted all sorts of people. Lin Dong smacked his lips and inwardly felt a little troubled. It seemed that there would be quite a number of people like Xie Yang during the next few days. It was indeed a little troublesome to compete against these large factions with strong foundations. Xie Yang's group, who had landed on the square, ignored the surrounding gazes, and headed straight for Sky Merchant Court. However, Xie Yang seemed to have sensed something when Lin Dong's eyes shot towards him. The former's footsteps paused momentarily, as a pair of eyes that were filled with maliciousness was thrown towards Lin Dong. Lin Dong smiled faintly, their gazes met. After which, they turned their eyes away. Xie Yang frowned slightly. Before he could pay more attention, however, Lin Dong had already turned around and headed towards another spot in the Sky Merchant Court. "Young master, what is it?" An elder beside Xie Yang opened his mouth and asked. Xie Yang shook his head. He glanced at Lin Dong's back, but did not say anything. In that earlier moment, he had vaguely detected a trace of an extremely dangerous fluctuation from Lin Dong's body. However, it was most likely a misconception now that he thought about it. After all, there were not many young people who could cause him to feel danger. He did not believe that a seemingly ordinary person like Lin Dong would possess such ability. "Let's go." Xie Yang waved his hand and led the group into the Sky Merchant Court. At the same time, Lin Dong had also entered a treasure inspection room within Sky Merchant Court. After which, he fished out the core spiritual birth serum. This video will end here.